Sure. I'm so excited. Today we're going to be talking about whether you're planning on sending your kids to college or back to school, or even if you're just homeschooling, there's a decision that you have to make. And this is very important for starting the new semester, starting the new year 2026 here. And there's a decision that you have to make that determines their entire experience in their education and the outcomes. And it's not curriculum, it's not schedules, it's not transcripts, it's not textbooks. What we're talking about today is actually how love of learning determines their entire experience and the outcomes. And it affects everything about the results you're going to get, both short term and long term. Now, as you're listening to this, I would love for you to think about who you are going to end up with right now. Where are you headed? What path are you on? Are you on the path of raising confident, lifelong learners, or are you on the path of raising box checkers and trying to obsessively prepare them for box checking because you know they're going to get it either in school if you're considering sending them back to school or in college? Now, here's the thing. We all want our kids, I hear this from all parents all the time, to say they're college ready. We want our kids to be college ready. Well, the tendency to think about this when we're trying to prepare our kids is to, well, I have to make sure that they're used to having classes, they're used to box checking, assignments, things like that. Now, this whole idea and this whole decision, this whole dilemma that you are faced with and that we're talking about today actually stemmed from a conversation I had with one of our inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy members. And last week, actually, she was talking about how her son is wanting to go back to school for high school. And she was torn between that fact of trying to prepare him for, or the desire of trying to prepare him for the box checking and all the stuff of school, the format in which school happens that he's going to get, and raising his love of learning, increasing his love of learning, and working out of the box in that way, not box checking. And if you've listened to me before, you know that I am all about getting out of the box in order to raise love of learning. Because here's the truth: any box checking that you do is going to lower love of learning. That's just how it works. It's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but it makes sense. When we're looking for just to check the boxes and going through the motions, which is honestly how I started homeschooling, then we're actually not focusing at all on love of learning and inspiring lifelong learners, which is how that develops. I teach a whole class on this in my Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass, which is coming up in February next month. If you guys want to join that, and it's free. But this is the problem, the dilemma that we have when we are thinking about preparing our kids either to go back to school or to be college ready in our homeschool. And a lot of people even homeschool this way all the time because it makes them feel good that box checking is happening. But here's the experience that I found through my own self. I almost killed my son's love of learning. If you want to know that story, go back and listen to episode 1 in our podcast. That is my entire story about what I did wrong and how I messed it up and what I did to fix it. But the reason why we are killing love of learning when we are focused on box checking is it's not about intention. It's not about making sure that each and everything has a purpose to the person, the end goal that we're trying to raise. Now, let's think about that in terms of college or school readiness. Does that result get us the person we're trying to raise? And it changes, their level of love of learning changes as they get the box checking. So the question is, do you want them to go into that situation with a high love of learning, or do you want them to go into that situation with a low love of learning because you're so busy trying to prepare them for box checking that they're going to experience in college, in school, and in whatever else they're doing in traditional education? Now, so I want to tell you the short term and the long term both effects with and without the high love of learning, because this matters so much. If we're talking about our kids' experience in the school, in the college, and we're talking about even in our homeschool, okay, which is what I teach all the time, if we're talking about their experience during that time, there's a different experience that's going to come with low love of learning or high love of learning. And same goes for the result that we're going to get out of that experience, the end result. So let's look at it in a little bit more detail. I'm going to be really quick today because I just want you to think about where you're headed right now, what path you're on. I want you to just take intention behind that. This is a great time to think about where am I going and what is my intention, and am I even being intentional about it? I know I wasn't when I first started. I was just going through the motions because that's just what you do, right? But I never even thought about what the end goal was, that or our experience in between, and it was vastly different than I thought it was going to be. I wanted fun, I wanted excitement, I wanted joy and love of learning, and we ended up crying every day. And that is the experience of low love of learning during their college experience, during their school time experience, during their homeschool experience, if we have low love of learning. So, short term, with low love of learning, there's going to be a lot of frustration. There's going to be a lot of just low motivation. There's going to be a lot of stress. You're going to feel it. The kids are going to feel it. And you're going to be tempted to overdo the productivity because you're trying, well, we just need to do more. We need to change a curriculum. We need to do something. We need to take different classes. Oh, this class, that'll inspire them. If love of learning is low, nothing is going to inspire them. You have to get love of learning high. And when love of learning's high, short-term results are that they're going to be very excited. They're going to be asking questions, digging in deeper. They're going to want to do projects. They're going to want to do all the things that are exciting about learning. They're going to know that learning happens everywhere all the time if we're intentional about it. And love of learning is consistently high. Even if they're in school or college, when they go into that with high level of learning, when they get the box checking, there are going to be two possible outcomes. When they get the box checking, they're going to go, I don't think I really like this box checking stuff. This is not allowing me to study what I think is exciting, study all the things I need to study, but in a way that doesn't require me to do all these things. Or they're going to be like, I know I'm a confident learner. I love this. I like to learn, and this is just a different way of learning. So all right, I'll do it, no problem. That's more likely the case if their love of learning is high. So there's two possible outcomes there. If the love of learning is low and they go into school, studies, college, classes type experience, box checking experience, they're going to get like even lower motivation. They're going to get even lower stress. They're going to hate everything because box checking always lowers love of learning. It's just a fact. It's just what it is. Your kids might go through the motions, but they're not going to love learning. So, which experience do you want your kids to have? Do you want your kids to go into it with high love of learning and then have the possibility of being like, yeah, it's not kind of my jam, but okay, I'll do it. I'm a confident learner. I'm a lifelong learner. I get it. It's fine. Or, and even possibly, I'm going to say this too. that if they have a really high level of learning and they're actually a lifelong learner when they go into college, they go into school, and they go into those box checking areas, they're not going to lower their level of learning too much because they're going to find ways to dig in deeper and to be excited about it because they're a lifelong learner. They're not going to be excited about the have tos, but they're going to be excited about being able to learn more because that's always exciting for a lifelong learner. Do you see the difference? We have to make a choice now. We have to make a choice now of what we want our kids' experience to be, both all in homeschool and in school situations. Then we have to think about the results. Their experience is one thing, but what are the results of that experience? If they have low level of learning and keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower, now we have a box checker. We've raised a box checker. If they go into it with low level of learning, their experience lowers it even more with the box checking. Now we have a box checker. We have a follower. We have somebody who's always looking for boxes to check or somebody to give them boxes to check. I talk about this in the Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass. I highly recommend that you come to that. But if we go into school, college, homeschool with high level of learning, and there's some box checking in school and college, it might lower a little bit, but we're still going to have the possibility of having a lifelong learner or having at least someone who loves learning come out of it. Maybe not a true lifelong learner yet, but maybe the higher the level of learning is, the more possibility of that happening. Do you see why I'm doing this today? Do you see why on January 1st, we need to think about the path that we're on and where we're headed? Where are you headed right now in the path with love of learning? Are you headed in the path of low love of learning or are you headed in the path of high love of learning? This is the dilemma that I basically outlined for one of our members in the Inspiring Life and Learning Academy last week. And she was like, "Huh, that's interesting to think about," because her mama brain, and she's actually a former teacher too. So a former teacher brain is saying, "I got to get him ready for the box checking. I got to get him ready. I got to start doing assignments. I got to start using Google Classroom. I got to start doing all these things. And I got to have structure. I got to have box checking. We got to have curriculums." And then on the other hand, she knows that box checking lowers love of learning because she's been in our academy for a while. And she's like, "Oh, but I want him to love learning." So, what is the experience for each, and what is the outcome for each? Low love of learning versus high love of learning. There's a really big dilemma. And this is the best time for you to be intentional in evaluating the path you've been on, and evaluating where you want to go from here. What I do is I teach you how to increase that level of learning and create a culture around it so that it supports it so much that we raise lifelong learners and leaders. If we're doing that going into school, college, we're setting our kids up actually for success. If we're preparing them with box checking, we're setting them up for failure. We're setting them up for low level of learning. We're setting them up for not being excited, being a lifelong learner. We're setting them up for box checking and being a box checker. Do you see the difference in that? It's huge. It's everything. It's everything. I got to tell you guys, I'm been so excited about this because I've been working really, really hard in the last, honestly, this process has taken me about a year, but I've got a new version of a big project coming out. And I have to tell you, I am so juiced because if you've ever wanted confidence that you were intentional about everything you did, woo, baby, I got you covered. This is so exciting. It's not out yet, but it's coming soon. And I keep following me, subscribe, follow me on YouTube, and drop me a DM to let me know what path you're on because I just got to see where you're going. And when this comes out, this project comes out, it's going to blow your mind. It's blowing my mind right now. And I've never been more sure that you can get from low love of learning, even in the toilet love of learning, to lifelong learners in a shorter amount of time than ever before. We've already been doing it. We've already been helping families. I've already been working with families for years and years, but now it's even shorter. It's even more intentional. It's even easier. And oh, baby, it's exciting. So drop me a line, send me a DM, make sure you follow, and share where you're at right now. Share what path you're on and where you want to be on. I'm excited for you. This is so amazing. This is going to be a best year yet. This is going to be the best semester you've ever had. And you're going to get on the right path to raising lifelong learners and leaders, no matter where your kids end up, college, back to school, whatever. Let's make that decision to give them the best opportunity and set them up and actually prepare them for success. I'll talk to you next week.